Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Vivek's Automation Lab. So today we are going to discuss port mapping in Docker, right? When we execute the command, what is port mapping? So we have seen, right, when we execute the command, the port section was, so let me launch my command prompt first so we can discuss that. Let's see. So when you say, okay, Docker run, say hello world. Now if you say Docker ps-a, so let's maximize it. So you can see this here, right? The port after status, that is blank. There is no port because there is no port mapping. So let's learn first what is port mapping. Let's go through some definitions of this, and then we'll do practical example of port mapping. Okay friends, so suppose this is the picture that you are seeing here. So we have two machines here, machine A and machine B. And suppose machine A wants to interact with machine B. So how it can interact? So if you see, this machine B has here the IP address, right? 192.168.172. So if machine A wants to communicate with machine B, it can communicate via this IP address. Okay. Now there could be, like, say there could be n number of machines, and machine A wants to communicate machine B, so it can identify machine B using this IP address. Now we are good. So let's see. Machine A can communicate to machine B using the IP. Okay. So now inside the machine B, we have our Docker is running. If you see here Docker, so Docker is running. So let me, okay, anyway, so yeah, Docker is running, and inside that machine we are running the Ubuntu container, we are running the GitHub container, right? Now suppose machine A wants to interact with the Ubuntu container. So what is Ubuntu container? We already discussed. Container is like a virtual machine. So machine B is our machine. Maybe it is our Windows machine where we have installed the Docker, and then we run the Ubuntu, like Docker run Ubuntu. Now Ubuntu is running means there is a virtual machine created, and we can use this Ubuntu. Then we are also running the GitHub. So this is another container. This is another virtual machine. So Ubuntu virtual machine and GitHub, they are two different machines running inside the machine B. And you want to talk to Ubuntu container from machine A. How you can do that? So friends, now Ubuntu, when you create the Ubuntu container, you can expose this container to some port. In this case, we are saying 80. GitHub is exposed to the 70. This means anybody wants to communicate with Ubuntu, they can communicate using this port number. Somebody wants to GitHub. So this is like same like, if you want to run the fan, suppose you have a fan and there is some switch, right? If you turn on, the fan will be running. There is some other switch for the light. Like that, they have a port number for different containers. Like for Ubuntu, we have port number 80 for GitHub. And since Ubuntu is a different machine, GitHub is a different machine, so Ubuntu can expose itself to 80, and GitHub can also expose itself to 80 because they are two different machines. So Ubuntu don't know about GitHub and GitHub don't know about Ubuntu. Now, when machine A wants to communicate to the Ubuntu, it will communicate. Okay, so let's do this like this. Okay. So it will communicate, okay, this Ubuntu is exposed to port number 80, and the machine B has different ports, like it has maybe many ports. So it has port 80, 90, like that. So the machine B port 80 is mapped to the Ubuntu's port 80. So machine A communicate to machine B using your IP address, and then it will use the host port, that is 80, and then the Ubuntu's port 80. Same way, suppose it wants to communicate to GitHub, right? So it will use the machine B IP address, and then it will use the machine B, that is host port, that is 90. It cannot use 80 because 80 is already used for Ubuntu, right? So it cannot use 80 here. So it is using a different port, 90, to communicate to the GitHub. Now GitHub is exposed to 70. GitHub can be exposed to 80 also because Ubuntu is 80 and GitHub 80 is two different container, two different virtual machines. So if you see these commands, right, Docker run. So this is the format, Docker run -p, then host port. The first one is the host port. Host port means machine B. Okay, and then container port. Container port can be Ubuntu or GitHub, and then the name of the image. So Docker run 80. If you want to run Ubuntu, you can say Docker run 80 Ubuntu. Then if you want to run GitHub, you can say docker run 9070. So this is how we do the mapping, port mapping from container to the host. So let's do some practical example of this in the next video. Hope you like this video, and just provide your comment if you have any question and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.